According to the Washington Post, Epstein wrote in the files that were released by the Epstein estate that Trump knew of the sexual abuse going on, but didn't participate. So Republicans claim, that clears Trump of any wrongdoing. Really? From the Post. And again, this is not the Epstein files. These are documents released by the Epstein estate. So this is the Washington Post writing, quote, Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period, Jeffrey Epstein wrote in an email to himself on February 1st, 2019, a couple of months before he got arrested on sex trafficking charges. Epstein wrote, quote, he never got a massage, unquote. So he knew about it, but he didn't participate. So do you think that clears Donald Trump? Trump's diehard supporters, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, believed Trump was sent to Washington, D.C. on a mission to uncover the child trafficking ring inside the deep, dark state. They believe this. It's the foundational myth of QAnon. So if Trump knew about Epstein's activities but didn't report them to the police and then became president and hid the Epstein files, or at least tried, do you think that information exonerates Trump with his QAnon base? Marjorie Taylor Greene was a true believer in QAnon and the stolen election lie. Well, she's turned on Donald Trump, partly because of his reluctance to release the Epstein files. She realized he didn't come to Washington to expose child trafficking. He came to cover it up, or at least won't release the Epstein files. That's one reason Marjorie has turned on Trump. But the real reason Marjorie has turned on Trump is he stopped answering her calls. All he had to do was take some of her calls, but he did shut her out once he returned to the Oval Office. In fact, Trump has said as much. Trump said, she's crazy, she's a lunatic, she keeps calling me, I don't have time for her. Marjorie Taylor Greene does not like it when people don't pay attention to her. The Miami Herald writes that the newly released files, and these are from the Epstein estate, these are not the Epstein files. The newly released files show Epstein writing that Trump spent hours alone with Virginia Giuffre, one of the chief victims. She was the one forced to have sex with Prince Andrew 3 times. So Trump says that exonerates Trump because Virginia Giuffre said repeatedly she was never forced to have any physical contact with Donald Trump. Okay. Why did he spend hours talking to Virginia Giuffre, according to Jeffrey Epstein? Well, I think it might be because when she was 16, she worked as a spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago. She was poached by Ghislaine Maxwell when Maxwell saw Virginia Giuffre at Mar-a-Lago reading a book on massage. Doesn't smell right. A 16-year-old girl working as a spa attendant inside Mar-a-Lago, poached by Ghislaine Maxwell. And that is why Epstein wrote in 2018, according to Newsweek, quote, I could take down Trump, unquote. The Guardian reports that in the recent document dump, Epstein said of Trump, quote, of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. In other words, Ghislaine Maxwell poached one of Trump's employees, Virginia Giuffre. Trump says that's why he cut off ties with Epstein. That's his latest explanation. He said Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein poached one of my employees at Mar-a-Lago. Well, that was Virginia Giuffre, a 16-year-old spa attendant, okay? According to Epstein, Donald Trump told Ghislaine Maxwell to stop poaching my employees and to stop using my girls for sex. So Republicans say, well, Trump is exonerated. He asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop pimping girls. No, you see, you report Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein to the police, especially when you learn in 2005 that there's an investigation going on into Epstein. You call the tip line. I mean, if you want to be president, Donald Trump says he's the chief law enforcer of the United States. You call the police. You don't say to Ghislaine Maxwell, knock it off. Tell Jeffrey to knock it off. And then when she doesn't, you decide, well, at least I tried. Again, none of this will ever force Trump to resign. It will never result in his ever going to prison or even getting sued in civil court. What it does do is lessen him in the eyes of his supporters. Not all. But remember, all it took was 3 women. Nancy Mace, 3 Republican women in Congress, Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, to say to Trump, no, enough, no. And then there's the problem of another woman, Ghislaine Maxwell. And this is where it becomes a real political problem for Trump and the Republican Party. This is where the midterms and a possible third term are called into serious question. Trump claims he's not going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. So look, he can pardon her, and he will. It'd be a smart move on his part to pardon her. Either way, she's going to remain silent. If she gets out, she'll just move out of the country, never be heard from again. So I don't doubt he's going to pardon her. The question is when. How will it look? Horrible, but who cares? It's Donald Trump. Thing is, he can't pardon her before the midterms. He can pardon her right before, if and ever he leaves office, but by then, he won't need her silence. By now, everyone knows Ghislaine Maxwell was transferred to a Texas prison where she's being treated, compared to others, she's being treated like someone who has a lot of dirt on the president of the United States. Special meals, toilet paper. That's a big thing in our nation's prisons. She's being given extra toilet paper. It's a rare commodity in American prisons. And she gets to play with puppies. She's being treated, compared to others, she's being treated like someone who has dirt on the president of the United States. How did she get this treatment? Remember, she spent 2 days with Donald Trump's criminal attorney, Todd Blanche, who moonlights as Deputy Attorney General. Todd Blanche flew down to Florida where she was being held, and it was remarkable. Ghislaine Maxwell told Todd Blanche, she told him everything Trump wanted to hear. She told Todd Blanche that Trump was always a gentleman, never did anything sordid, and before you knew it, she was transferred to that Texas prison where she gets toilet paper. What else? I mean, what was she going to say? She saw what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. She knows it's not safe behind bars. She thinks maybe she can get pardoned. What, she's going to tell the truth? This is George Conway, who used to be married to Kellyanne Conway. He's a Republican, a nasty Republican. You'd have to be one in order to stay married to Kellyanne that long. He is a never-Trumper and is now threatening to run for Congress as a Democrat. So we don't need George Conway in our party. He should go fix the Republican Party, but stay out of my party. At best, he's an ally. He's not one of us. Congressman Jerry Nadler is retiring. He represents New York's 12th congressional district. This is what George Conway, he's thinking of running for a seat in the 12th congressional district here in New York. He doesn't even live in New York. Jack Schlossberg, Caroline Kennedy's son, announced he's running for that seat. And look at this kid. Let me go big here because this is Jack Schlossberg, Caroline Kennedy's son. Does he have his grandfather's looks and charisma or what? Look at him. I mean, he is a spitting image for Mordechai Schlossberg. The way he talks, his mannerisms, his hair, his sense of humor. I mean, who didn't love Jack Schlossberg's grandfather, Mordechai Schlossberg? I have no idea who his paternal grandfather is, but I would assume it's somebody named Mordechai Schlossberg. Then again, there's President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, his grandfather on his mother's side. So look, Jack Schlossberg, the kid is a narcissist. He's annoying, but he's President Kennedy's grandson, who over the past year has called his cousin, Bobby Kennedy Jr., dangerous, a rabid dog, a threat to public health, and a loser. So, look, I was supposed to marry Jack Schlossberg's mother, Caroline. We never met, but my parents convinced me I was destined to marry Caroline Kennedy, so I feel a little responsibility for this kid. That's not my district, but I would like to see him win. They could use some good news. Anyway, back to George Conway. Here he is during unhappier times with his then wife, attending the first Trump inauguration. That's George Conway playing the dutiful husband, holding his wife's mink made entirely of choice shavings from Kellyanne's back hair. That is true. That is true. So George Conway is a successful corporate lawyer. He was also part of the sting operation that tricked Bill Clinton into lying about his affair with Monica Lewinsky. This automatically disqualifies George Conway from running as a Democrat. Conway was an advisor to the Paula Jones lawyers who sued Clinton for sexual harassment. And it was George Conway, by the way, who argued before the Supreme Court that a sitting president, Bill Clinton, could be sued and deposed in a civil lawsuit. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that Bill Clinton could be sued and deposed by Paula Jones's lawyers. And the lawyers, working with Ken Starr, tricked Bill Clinton into committing perjury by lying about his relationship with Monica Lewinsky. That's who George Conway is. He was in on the sting operation to destroy Bill Clinton. He's not a Democrat. Just because he hates Trump, that doesn't make him a decent person. Nobody who can stay married to Kellyanne Conway for 22 years could possibly be a decent person. But he is a thorn in Trump's side, especially on the Jeffrey Epstein issue. So I want you to see something that I think is absolutely remarkable. And it kind of reveals the kind of free fall the Justice Department is in right now. This is a tweet from George Conway, private citizen, directed at Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. When the Epstein estate released some of these documents that we've been poring over, some of those documents showed that Ghislaine Maxwell and Donald Trump were hiding a lot of things and that she didn't deserve to be transferred to that prison in Texas where they give you toilet paper. So Conway tweeted this at our Deputy Attorney General. And it's really not much, but you'll see. This is what George Conway wrote. An important side note about today's Epstein-Trump revelations. They show that Todd Blanche's questioning of Ghislaine Maxwell was either A, completely incompetent, or B, intentionally crafted not to elicit facts incriminating Trump. Either way, he's not fit to serve as Deputy Attorney General. Okay, so, that's nothing special there. That's your run-of-the-mill attack on Twitter. That's, you address one of your tweets at a public official, hoping he sees it, but Todd Blanche, being the Deputy Attorney General of the United States in charge of the Justice Department's day-to-day operations, overseeing 93 United States attorneys' offices in all 50 states, including Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands. You know that Todd Blanche doesn't have time to engage in a flame war on Twitter with a political gadfly like George Conway, who's just trying to make a name for himself, going on CNN, MSNBC, attacking the president. You don't expect the Deputy Attorney General to respond to George Conway. Too busy. Apparently not. The Deputy Attorney General took the bait. Where does he have the time to answer George Conway? I'm going to read you what the Deputy Attorney General of the United States wrote back to George Conway on Twitter. Now, it doesn't matter what the Deputy Attorney General of the United States wrote to George Conway. The fact that he responded to George Conway proves this is a Justice Department in free fall, with a lot of U.S. attorneys abandoning ship to cover their asses. And that includes Todd Blanche. Remember, Todd Blanche was Trump's criminal attorney until this year when he also became Deputy Attorney General. So he writes back, George, you've never been confused. For a trial lawyer in these kinds of posts, explain why. When I interviewed Maxwell, law enforcement didn't have the materials Epstein's estate hid for years and only just provided to Congress. Stop talking, it's unbecoming. So this is revealing that Todd Blanche is thinking about life after the Trump administration. And he's acknowledging, had I seen what the Epstein estate was going to release, I probably wouldn't have transferred Ghislaine Maxwell to the Texas prison where they have toilet paper. The fact that he feels the need to defend himself, well, it's the amateur hour, is what it is. It's panic. Todd Blanche, the reason Donald Trump is a convicted felon is because of Todd Blanche. So, where are we here? You have a Justice Department right now in free fall. They don't have enough prosecutors, and they're only going after immigration. They're only the entire Justice Department they no longer prosecute fraud. They no longer prosecute terrorists or drug dealers. It's just deporting immigrants. If the previous Trump administration serves as any indicator, a lot of people who got too close to Donald Trump are going to end up with their reputations in tatters. As I said earlier, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman have been disbarred. Jeffrey Clark, who thought he was about to become Attorney General in the final days of the first Trump administration, he cooperated with Trump, was going to challenge the election. He was told this year by the D.C. Bar's full disciplinary board they are recommending his license to practice get taken away. It now goes before the D.C. Court of Appeals. It's a very slow process to get disbarred. But countless lawyers close to Trump have been disbarred or are facing disbarment. Countless aides indicted, went broke. And it's slowly dawning on Todd Blanche that should Democrats win back one of the chambers, either the Senate or the House of Representatives, at the very least, he's going to need very expensive lawyers, at the very least.